And hello, movie lovers. And tonight, I actually have a very special friend of mine. That's Josh. And we're going to be talking about the very first Scream movie. This movie came out in 1996. And of course, a year later, I believe they followed up with Scream 2. But we're not here to talk about Scream 2. We're here to talk about the very first Scream movie. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hey, Josh.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Going good, man. It's been a while since we've done a show together. I'm glad to actually have you on here.
Yeah, it's glad to be back. Especially talking Scream. I'm really excited for
Right?
that.
And this is going to be part of our rewatch series. So Josh will be with me throughout this whole entire journey of Scream,
Yep.
all the way up leading into the new Scream movie, which I hope that you'll be back reviewing that one with me.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk about this for a minute. This movie came out in 1996 of December 20th. It also had a budget of between 14 and 50 million dollars. It made 173 million dollars at the box office, which is very
Nice.
impressive. So no wonder why they wanted to do a sequel.
Yeah. It's a nice Christmas movie. Take the family for a nice Christmas movie.
Right? Hey kids, guess what? Get in the van. We're gonna go on a family. Are we gonna go see Chevy Chase? Are they gonna go on ahead and re-release it again and for a Christmas vacation? Nah, we're gonna go see Scream.
Yep.
Watch some people kill each other. But dude, I remember going to the theaters to see this with my mom because she's the one who took me to go see this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like maybe 10 when I saw this movie, and I just remember being in the theater and being so sucked into this, like who's the killer? And we don't even at that point we didn't realize it was actually a voice control thing to control somebody's voice or whatever. So I was actually looking for someone with that kind of voice. So therefore, that's what I was actually thinking. Of course, a plot
Yeah.
twist and stuff like that at the very end, you are actually surprised. But
Yeah.
just like the yeah, go on ahead.
It was a great way to throw everybody off. It wasn't really something that we had seen before. So I think one of the things that really made it work.
Most definitely, and Wes Craven does a really fantastic job with this one.
Hmm.
The point where it actually throws you off your guard and everything, especially whenever they tease that Cindy's boyfriend might actually be the killer, and then you wonder, and then all of a sudden they throw us for a loop. We're going to get into that in a few minutes, but I like how he actually does a misdirection with it, and then after everything's tied in at the very end, then you're really shocked at who the actual killers actually are. So that's
Yeah.
something I really liked about it.
Yeah.
But of course, this also has a cameo with Drew Barrymore. She has actually a high school student named Casey Baker. She is home alone when she receives the call from an unknown person during which they discuss horror films. The caller turns sadistic, refusing to leave Casey alone and threatening her life. That's just a mild thing that I put in my notes, but I like how it opens up as to how we actually watch movies and
Hmm.
rent movies from the video store at the time. She's heating up some popcorn for her and her boyfriend to enjoy. And then, of course, that's when we wind up seeing the phone call happen. And of course, she's like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" At first, she's just going along with it, and then she's like, "Well, I like Freddy Krueger." Oh, is that the one with the knives in his fingers? Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah, that her stuff and that scene was one of the biggest parts of the marketing I remember with when this movie came out. And they wanted everybody to think that she was a big part of this movie, and she's not.
You know what though? Now that you're thinking about it, though, I remember the teasers for it, and I'm glad that they actually opened up with like it actually opens up for the tone of what this movie's going to be
Oh yeah.
with that first kill with Drew Barrymore, and it sucks you right in with that first
Hmm.
stab scene, and then it breaks into the next day with the school where the school people, the people in the school, is actually talking about
Yeah.
um, Casey and her boyfriend being murdered. So and then of course how high schoolers are; they always wind up spreading rumors and things like that.
Yeah.
So I definitely like where Wes Craven was going with it because of the fact that that's how high schoolers actually talk during that time.
Yep.
So it puts you in the mindset of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And her scene is honestly, in my opinion, one of the best scenes of the movie. I mean, I love this movie so much, but that opening sequence is probably the best of the entire series, the best opening sequence I think that they've ever done.
I think so too, because like I said, you have the opening scene where she's making popcorn, and then of course she goes, "Well, my boyfriend's going to be coming over, and he's going to kick your ass. He's a
Yeah,
football player." And so he goes, turn on the front porch lights." And that's when you realize that, oh crap, this person actually got her boyfriend and tied him up to a chair. And
yeah,
she doesn't have that security blanket of like saying, "Oh, I'm safe because my boyfriend plays football and this person will kick that person's ass now."
yeah,
Now it goes into the vulnerability effect of, now what do I do?
yeah,
And of
yeah. And like with this opener, like because I've watched this movie dozens of times, and there's no way it was only one of them. It had to have been both of them during this
right.
part, because there's no way that all the different things that happen in the way that like they string her up toward the end. There's no way only one person was able to do all of that. So I love, because there are ways to tell which killer is which. There's like subtle things that they each do when they're in the ghost face stuff. So it's really cool to go back and watch, knowing where each one winds up being, um, and base that on how they kill and everything, and kind of see who they choose. It's really interesting.
It definitely is because, okay, so this I'm going to talk about this other thing though too, because of the fact Casey answered the question about Friday the 13th incorrectly, which happens to be, of course, Jason Voorhees' mother. That was actually the one who was actually killing the first one,
Yeah,
and then right then and there, Steve is murdered in front of her and gutted, and that was a gruesome scene. Seeing it in 4K and everything makes everything stand out even more.
oh, I bet.
And I'm like, oh my god, you see the gruesome stuff on VHS, and then of course you see it on the big screen, but nothing compares to the 4K. And I'm like, oh my god, this is really intense with the fact that he's been gutted out. All of his guts is actually hanging out, and then next thing you know, Casey winds up running outside the yard. Her mom and dad are pulling up. Her mom and dad are wondering what's going on, and then of course that's when Casey winds up getting stabbed, and then of course gets hung after she gets being butchered, and then it goes into the next day. And then this is actually where we have the whole entire media who descends into town in the wake of the murders, and a police investigation begins. Cindy Prescott struggles with the upcoming anniversary of her mother, Maureen's rape and murder, while a
Yeah,
news reporter, Gail Weathers, whom Sydney despises, arrives as a press member.
yeah,
So now you actually have that tensified scene where it's like, oh, so this is actually someone that's been through some stuff already because her mom died and was raped and murdered. She's trying to
yeah.
cope with that 1 year anniversary while also having to suffer through this with her friends dying.
Yeah, and like a year is not that long. So like for her to have to go through this again that soon, it's insane. She's an extremely strong character. You know what I mean? So just because of that, and we see that throughout all the films.
Exactly. I always pictured Cindy. Now, it's been a while since I've seen the film and everything, and I just now started revisiting it again. I always pictured her as like not a dazzle in distress, but she is a strong character. But I like how she doesn't take no crap from the killer, especially whenever she takes one of the killer down. And even the cop said Cindy actually defended herself very well with the confrontation of this killer.
Yeah,
So I like how they actually brought that into light, that this is actually going to be a strong character. But I remember saying, okay, in Scream 2, she becomes a lot more stronger because she knows now what to expect,
yeah,
opposed to how before she didn't know what to expect because it's her first time going through it.
yeah,
And
yeah. We see her, like her strength as a character. Um, I think particularly when the killer is in the house and chasing her around, she instantly goes for the front door, which is a thing that you don't see a lot in horror movies. She goes for that front door, but it's locked and he's right there on her, so she can't unlock it. So she's forced to do the trope thing and run up the stairs,
right,
you know. But even
because
then, she does that and she has a plan. She's able to keep him, like essentially lock him out of the room so that she can get out. Like she plays it really smartly.
She does, because remember whenever the killer talks to her, goes, "What's your favorite scary movie?" I don't like scary movies because all it is some big-breasted girl that plays the damsel. Basically, I'm not going for verbatim,
Yeah.
but all they do is go up the stairs, and
Yeah.
they should be just running through the front door. And then the killer
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, really?" Then
Yeah.
next thing you know, she winds up locking the door in front of her because he now knows that's her go-to. So
Yeah.
therefore, he's gonna go after her.
That's the brilliance of Wes Craven and his ability to subvert those tropes with this movie. I mean, this movie is incredible, and he did such a good job with it. So
Definitely. But my other thing is though too is okay. So the first time I saw this in theaters, I didn't know who the killer was, but that fountain scene alone tells you who the killers actually are.
yeah,
Because when you see Cindy's boyfriend Billy, and then of course you wind up seeing what's Billy's friend's name?
Stu.
Stu. When you see Billy and Stu having that conversation, and you instantly know that those two are the killers because of the fact that Stu goes, "Well, it's not that hard to actually gut somebody. All you would have to do is do an incision all the way down." And he's actually giving vivid details of how you would actually do that.
And the way Billy looks at him, like, you need to shut up
Uh,
right now, like, yeah, he knows.
but here's the thing: in the theater, though, we don't realize that, right? For your first
Yeah,
experience and everything. But then once the blinders are taken off, then you realize, like we mentioned with Secret Window, those blinders are actually taken off.
yeah,
And that's one of the things I really liked was how smart the writing is, because once you get into it, it doesn't slow down.
yeah,
And I liked how Billy's like, "You need to just shut up,
yeah.
Stu." And
I
then
mean, the fact that we don't know that there's 2 killers, like, so you're not really thinking about the fact that it's both of them, They instantly aim everybody toward Billy, which is insane because, like, he is the killer, and they take him to jail and everything, you know what I mean? And, like, so,
right,
like, they had him, and then
even right,
we don't know yet that there's another killer out there, so they're able to make it seem like, okay, I guess it's not him, and he really messes with the audience's head that way.
right, because at first you're like, okay, did he really do it? Did he not do it? And then I like how David Arquette plays Dewey in this movie though too,
Yeah.
and he goes, He goes, "Hey, hey, Dewey. No, it's Officer Dewey today. Said we need to
Yeah.
talk." I'm like, and then he has that conversation with her about the relationship between Sydney and the girl that got murdered, and then of course wondering if she's okay because of everything that's going on
Yeah.
because of the anniversary of her mother's death, and then of course that's when we wind up seeing that conversation at the water fountain, like we mentioned, and then it goes into there's actually that one character I really like, to Randy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Jamie
Randy
Kennedy.
reminds me of us as
Yeah.
film nerds and stuff like that. He represents who we are as the film audience who love horror movies.
Yeah.
And at first you're thinking, okay, maybe Randy did it because of the babies being stuffed inside the mail carrier and stuff.
Yeah.
But then you realize, okay, well he's just being goofy. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I love Randy as a character. He's essentially he is the audience, He reacts the way we would react in situations like that, and to everyone's surprise, he makes it out in the end, So it's nice. I like him.
definitely.
I wish he had stuck around for the third one. Been able
I wish
to
that
be
that's what
alive at least for it.
exactly, because that's how I feel though too. I feel like they should have kept him alive. And even Jamie Kennedy said it goes, "Why would they kill me off? I was like the best thing with the franchise
Yeah.
and stuff. They killed me off a little too early."
I think the reason, I mean, I know we're not actually talking about the second movie, but I think the reason that it happened is because they wanted people to realize that, anybody can die, even people who made it past that first one.
Right. Because
So,
even Randy talked about the rules in the second one too.
yeah,
And we'll get into that when we do our second Scream movie.
yeah,
But then of course I like how they make the joke with Randy. Oh, you're still working over at the video store? He goes, yeah, I quit like 3 times. I got fired like 3 times.
Yeah.
So I like that part. It's like that little teenage smart assy type of thing that we would actually say.
Yeah.
And then, then of course we wind up playing with the whole entire thing where they're insulting, basically talking about Cotton Wary, who tried and convicted of Maureen's rape and murder, was not responsible for the crime. And that night, while waiting at home for her best friend, that's when Tatum Riley to arrive. Sydney gets a taunting phone call. We talked about that. Sydney's boyfriend, Billy Loomis, arrives immediately. But the way that she goes about this, though, man, like, she ends up trapping the killer outside of her room by taking the closet door and putting it into where her bedroom is.
Yeah.
And then the killer can get up.
Which they set up at the beginning. Because she's in her room, and it's when Billy first comes in, and he's in her room with her, and her dad tries to get in the room. So they set that up that that's a thing that she can do, is essentially block her door from opening. So I liked how they set that up before actively using it for her to stop stop Ghostface from getting in there.
Same. I like that setup. And then of course she's into her computer though too. And at this time though, it's dial-up internet. So she's using 911 to call out because the killer's inside the house.
Yeah.
Which is very smart of Sydney to actually say, oh crap, I can't use my phone.
Yeah.
Because the line is busy because of the fact I'm online. But wait, I can call 911. I can actually still dial out.
Yeah.
And then at that time, that's when Ghostface disappears. And Billy pops up out of the window again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, she thinks that he did it. And then she runs downstairs. And then this is my favorite iconic part with David Arquette. He has the mask of Ghostface in his hands. Yes. And she screams. And then he screams.
Yeah, I love that. But it's like, okay, so like Billy pops up. There's physically no way that he could have made it, so it was obviously Stu who was in the house with her. But she's so freaked out that she doesn't think about that in any way. There's physically no way he could have taken off all that stuff, made it out and around, and climbed up to her window in that amount of time. Right. You know what I mean? It's impossible unless he's able to teleport. That's the only.
Unless he has like Superman capabilities where he can just hurry up, take off the Ghostface gear, and then hurry up.
Yeah, that's really the only way. So that was his. That was smart on their part as a duo of killers, for him to do that, knowing that he would probably be a suspect because of that. But there's like literally no way it could have been him, so his hands are clean in that one, at least.
Well, then you also have the cell phone part where the cell phone falls out of his pocket.
Yeah.
And so that tells me that, okay, he might be the one who's actually doing the phone calls, but then turns out he's not even making any phone calls to Sydney at all, because Stu's the one who's doing this calling.
Mm-hmm.
So they take turns back and forth between who does the calling and who does the killing. And stuff like that too. So you don't know who's doing what. And so therefore they wind up taking Billy in, and then they put him behind bars. And then the way he looks at Sydney at the jailhouse, when they go over to the sheriff's office, you can definitely tell that he's really pissed off at Sydney. But at the same time, if you look at the way his eyes are slanted, he's out. You can definitely tell that it's not just because he's pissed off at Sydney.
Yeah.
You can tell that there's something beneath that mask that he's wearing.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's done a lot. He's seen a lot. And we find out in the later movies just how much he's done. So
right. Yeah. And then of course, the next day Billy is released, and suspicion shifts to Sydney's father, Neil Prescott, due to the anonymous phone calls having been traced to his phone after school is suspended in the wake of the murders. And I like how the principal in this movie though too. You actually have what's his name that plays the principal?
Henry Winkler.
Yeah, you have Henry Winkler playing the principal, telling the students that he loves them.
Yeah. I love him as the principal. It's so fun.
It's fun to watch him because of the fact he ends up putting the Ghostface mask on and starts doing all those doing something that we would do. It's like,
Yeah.
bleh. They're just, just acting totally goofy with the
Yeah.
mask on. And they goes into the bathroom, and that's, of course, when he dies. And I remember my mom and I whispering to each other, that has to be the killer.
Yeah.
Then
there's
he winds up
also,
getting killed.
before he dies, there's a quick scene with Wes Craven, actually, as a janitor. And he's dressed like Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
And I
Yeah,
love that scene. It's such a nice little throw to all of that, all his stuff in there. I love that.
it is a nice little treat to see Wes over there because it's a callback from Nightmare on Elm Street 1, where he's the janitor. And of course, you actually love the hall monitor and, Nightmare on Elm Street 1, where he goes, watch inside the hallways, don't run.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they actually, Wes did like a little bit of small of a callback with that. I thought that was actually smart.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
And
that
then,
part.
I like how Dewey and then the cops are like, well, we don't have that much evidence on him at all, on this guy, on Billy. And so therefore we have no choice but to let him go. And Dewey, you can definitely tell that Dewey thinks that he has the right guy. But at the same time, it's like,
Dewey doesn't trust him at all.
and his walls are up.
Yeah.
And then whenever he leaves, now this is actually my favorite part, when they get ready to leave the station with Dewey's sister and Sydney. And then, of course, you see Gail. And what does Gail say to Sydney that makes her punch? He goes, oh, yeah, okay, never mind. Sydney goes, hey, Gail, I liked your book. He goes, really? I'll get you a copy. Bam.
Yeah.
Punches her and knocks her down.
Bam. Bitch went down. I love that.
Me too. And then Dewey's over there icing Sydney's hand.
Yeah.
That's it. But Sydney definitely deserved it. She has bad timing when it comes down to certain things. I get the fact that she's an investigative reporter and things like that, but at the same time, she doesn't care about anything but the story and doesn't care about the people either. She just cares about herself.
Yeah. Gail was a completely selfish character in this first movie. Yeah.
And then let's see, Tatum's boyfriend and Billy's best friend, Stu Marcher, throws a party to celebrate the school's closure.
Yep.
That's also another thing that happens. But I like the video store conversation in there where you have Randy, Stu, and Billy all in that store.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the conversation because of the fact that it reminds me of myself working at a video store and having those video store conversations. And like we said before, Randy actually represents us as the audience who would actually work at a video store. So I definitely like those little callbacks for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the whole entire deal where you actually have the party with the closure of the schools and things like that was actually pretty funny. It's like, okay, well, we don't have no schools, so screw it. We're just going to go in and throw this big party. And then you have, of course, Randy playing Halloween. And I always thought this was actually on Halloween because Randy was actually watching horror movies.
Yeah.
So
I think he's just such a horror fanatic that if he's going to put something on, it's probably going to be a horror movie.
Right. And it happens to be Halloween.
Yeah.
That he's playing, which is the movie that winds up being part of the introduction, basically close to the introduction to what this movie sets up.
Yeah.
With your Michael Myers and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Stu's sister winds up dying in this party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tatum's death in this is, I don't want to say one of my favorite. That seems like a bad word to use. But it's a pretty epic death, I have to say.
At least she didn't feel anything. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
She was gone.
It's one of the few times that Ghostface kills somebody without touching them, essentially, to do it.
Right? It's like, oh, she's doing the work for me, so therefore I'm going to go on ahead, and she's doing something stupid, so therefore I can actually kill her. Yeah. And what better way to do it when she's going through the doggy door of a garage?
Yeah.
And so as she's going through the doggy door, that's when, of course, he decides to go on ahead. Ghostface goes on ahead, pulls up the garage door, and kills her by slamming her head up against the middle piece that's actually part of the garage.
Yeah.
So And then you have Randy, who's actually explaining the rules of survival for horror movies. And then Stu was also teasing. This is, of course, I think when Stu winds up deciding, hey, I'm going to put on the ghost face mask, because he goes, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Because that's one of the rules. You never say that.
Right. Then we wind up having Gail attends uninvited, of course. She also sets up an hidden camera. And poor Kenny, the cameraman.
Was it like a 30-second delay, I think is what they say.
Yeah, 30-second delay. By that time, the kids are already dead.
Yeah.
And as soon as Kenny says, oh, there's a 30-second delay, that's when Ghostface goes on ahead and slashes his throat. But that's before Gail and Dewey come back from their little hike. Mm-hmm. Whenever those kids get a phone call that someone's been gutted out in the football field. And then so they're like, hey, let's go ahead and get that person down and see a dead body.
Yeah. This town is so messed up, man.
It really is. You think about it.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're in a small town, when they just want to see a dead body that's been gutted out. That's someone you know.
Yep. They're not upset. They're just interested. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
They just want to see some guts hanging down. That's all. There's something wrong with that.
They got nothing else to do.
Right. The party wasn't enough. They just had to go out and investigate even further.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, of course, Tatum heads to the garage door. She get one. We already talked about that. But then, of course, we also have this other thing where we have Sydney and Billy getting ready to get it on, because of the fact that she decided, hey, maybe I am keeping Billy away and stuff like that. Maybe I am keeping him away to keep my innocence, and it's time to actually be with someone that might want to make love to me. Yeah. So therefore, they wind up sleeping together, and then of course this gives open range to the fact that, hey, if you're a virgin, you'll survive. So now there's no survival for Sydney because of those rules that Randy winds up giving.
Yeah. So she has to make her own survival now.
And I like how now it's her movie. I like how she goes, it's my movie now.
Yeah.
And essentially it's like, okay, so now she has her own rules, not playing by their rules. And I like how they play off the narrative with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they do such a good job just kind of subverting all that kind of stuff. And you have her finally giving it up to Billy, and then for her to find out that he's actually the killer and all this stuff. It had to have messed with her head quite a bit after all of that too,
Most definitely, dude.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And then, at this point you have Randy, Stu, and Billy coming up to the front door. Mm-hmm. And then of course, Dewey also got stabbed in the back. So that's how and so she's like, you know what? F you guys. I'm done. I'm not listening to Randy. I'm not listening to Stu. I'm not listening to anybody. And I forgot I know I just said Billy was over there, but no, Billy was upstairs because he gets stabbed by Ghostface, supposedly.
Yeah.
So supposedly. He's upstairs.
Ketchup.
Right. And corn syrup. What a taste. But yeah, he's upstairs. He gets stabbed after sleeping with Sydney, and then that's when, of course, Sydney runs downstairs, and then she opens the door, and that's when she discovers that Randy and Stu are both outside, and basically Randy's trying to tell her that, hey, don't trust Stu.
Yeah.
And she goes, and then Stu's over there, don't trust him either. He's the killer. You need to go ahead and kill him. She's like, well, fuck both of you. And
just shuts them out, man.
Which is nothing, and that's also not been seen in horror movies either.
Yeah.
It's like, which one do I trust? And then the person winds up shooting either the right one or the wrong one. And then instead, Sydney winds up just closing the door on both of them and says, screw both of you.
Yeah, she's like, fuck you guys.
Right. And then after that, we get Billy coming down the stairs, crawling down the stairs and everything, acting like he's still hurt. And, he goes, let me have the gun, Sydney. Let me have the gun. And so he gives her the gun, and then he opens the door, lets Stu in. But then you can see where he's actually basically closing it off to Stu. I mean, not to Stu, but to Randy. But Randy winds up coming in anyways. And he goes, man, I'm telling you, Stu is fucking crazy. And then all of a sudden you see Billy goes, we all go crazy sometimes. And
I love that line, man. He delivers that line so perfectly. It gives me chills.
same. Is it just me, or does he look like a younger Johnny Depp
I can
to
see
me?
that. Yeah, I can see that.
Because to me, he actually looks like Johnny Depp in a way, which is like a little small Easter egg to the very first Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Yeah.
So it kind of, to me, to be honest with you, I think that he actually does look like Johnny Depp a little bit,
Yeah, I can absolutely see that.
especially with the
I'd
hairstyle
never thought about that until you said it, but I can totally see that.
and you know, the delivery of that line. I remember in the movie theaters hearing that for the first time, and then and then someone in the back of me who had already seen the movie goes, "We all go crazy a little sometimes." So I'm like, okay, so someone's already seen this movie, but I like the fact that someone is also mimicking the movie. It
Yeah.
didn't ruin my experience. Normally, it actually takes me out of the movie, but to hear somebody else quote the movie, it just makes me laugh because of
Yeah.
the fact this is not one of those movies that you have to pay attention to that much
Yeah.
to get the concept of it. But
Yeah, that's true.
then he winds up shooting Randy, and then after that, you wind up seeing Stu and Randy. Not Stu and Randy, but what you wind up seeing is Stu, and of course you wind up seeing Billy hold Cindy hostage, and then he goes,
Yeah.
"Just wait, Cindy, I have a surprise for you. It's gonna be a real killer." And out comes the father, who's been in that basement for God knows how long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the entire time length of the movie, because when we see him try to come into her room, like he's getting ready to leave. Like he's supposed to be leaving that morning, the next morning,
Yeah, to go
to
out of
go on
town.
like a business trip, and he never made it. Like they were in the house, and they took him that night and put him in there. You know, so
And then, I liked how they talked about, because you know what? If you get it wrong, guess what? You die.
yeah,
Because, and I also liked how they were both going back and forth with the voice changer and stuff like that, and explaining their whole entire motive behind it. And then they're also
yeah. They just
quoting different
lay it.
horror
They just
movies.
lay it all out, man. Because they're so confident that they're gonna get away with it that it's like a Bond villain. Just here's my plan. Say, come on, guys.
And they're both
Be
stabbing each
smart.
other.
Oh
They're
yeah,
both,
that.
but even if they did, now let's just hypothetically here, okay? Let's say, for instance, that they do try to get away with it. They can tell that it's self-inflicted wounds, even though somebody
Yeah,
else stabbed them. Especially whenever you look at the height of the weapon and how high the knife is, and then
yeah,
you actually look at the person got stabbed. You can definitely tell it's self-infliction on both of them.
yeah. Feeling a
The
little woozy, man.
man, you stabbed me too hard, man. And then of
Oh man.
course, my favorite line though is when Sydney winds up taking her and her father away from that whole entire situation, and that she's actually hiding. And then she winds up turning the tables on them. He goes, "What's your favorite scary movie?"
Yeah,
And he goes,
yeah. She takes the power back, and it's an amazing scene.
once again, another power trope to Nightmare on Elm Street, where basically we actually have the main character taking power away from Freddy, just
Yeah,
as how she took power away from them.
yeah.
So I liked how he played it off of that. But then Sydney goes, and I called the cops. And then Stu goes, "My parents are going to be so mad at me."
Yeah. He's so worried about his parents.
Now he
Oh
thinks of
man.
his parents after
Yeah. Yeah. After killing how many people? Like, come on.
the principal, the Drew Barrymore's character.
Yep. Jeez. One of the things I love about this, because I brought it up earlier, is how you can tell which killer is which. Stu is the one who double hands the knife and brings it up over his head. That's how he kills. Billy is a one-hander, and he's the one who chokes people. So when you go back and rewatch it, look for those, and then that's how you'll know which one of them it is that's doing each individual killing. It's really interesting to go back and watch it that way.
See, I didn't know that because in back in my mind, and I've seen this movie several times too, and I always wondered, okay, which one is which
Yeah,
because of that. But also too, if you think about it, Stu is kind of theatrical, so he would actually be the one who would actually hold the knife with both hands, like he's actually in a drama. Then you actually have, of course, Billy, who's just one-handed.
Yeah.
Because we actually see that too whenever he winds up um, stabbing Stu with the knife.
Yeah.
He doesn't do the double-handed thing either. So now that I'm thinking back on it,
you see him outside of the Ghostface costume trying to choke Sydney at one point. So like that's how you know like he's the choker. Yeah.
okay. I never thought. Thank you for bringing that up because I never noticed
Yeah.
that before. Because I was like, okay, in the back of my mind, every single time I watch it, I'm like, well, which one's the one who's doing the calling? Which one's the one who's doing the strangling, the knife, and everything else?
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that clarity up to me because I didn't even know.
Yeah, no problem. It makes watching it, I think, far more interesting.
Most definitely. Like I said, even with the water fountain scene, though, too, you have a lot of fun with that scene because of the fact that it leaves everything wide open to, and is actually pointing the red arrows to the killers.
Oh yeah.
So it's very smart on how Wes Craven does misdirection with this.
Yeah, he's I should say, incredible at doing that kind of thing. Yeah.
Then let's see. Then we also have Billy and Stu corner Sydney in the kitchen and discuss their plan. We talked about that, and pin the murder spree on her father, whom they have taken hostage. They also reveal that the murder her mother and Frank Cotton for it, as she was having an affair with Billy's father, which drove his mother away. So there's that part that I put on my notes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty. Man, the fact that this guy was so angry about his father having an affair with some woman that and it causing his family to fall apart, that he would go out and murder her, and then a year later, be together with her daughter just for this plan. Like he's
Grotesque.
he's got problems. Like he is a true psychopath.
And that's what I like about Billy, though, in a sense, is like he actually has motive. He
Yeah.
also has a reason why he wants to murder somebody. It's not someone that just decided, oh, I watched several different horror movies, so therefore I'm going to go out on a killing spree. Because even Stu, even whenever Sydney winds up calling Stu and them out on it, he goes, "You guys are nothing but fucking psychopaths. You watch way too many damn movies." And then that's, of course, when Stu winds up saying, "No, we find inspiration."
Yeah.
But I want to know what the conversation was like with Billy and Stu, to where they both wanted to do this. I wanted to know Stu's motivation.
I think Stu was just easily manipulated, honestly. I think he's just weak-willed, and Billy was able to just manipulate him into doing this for him, to convince him that it was a good idea and that they would just get away with it. It'd be easy. It wouldn't be a big deal. I can't hear you. Your audio cut out. No.
What about now?
There we go.
Okay. I was saying I could see him convincing Stu this way. Hold on, let me get this. There we go. I could see him convincing Stu this way, where it's like, you know what? It's just one big horror movie, in a sense.
Yeah.
So none of this is really real. So
Yeah.
therefore, I could see it going down that way.
Oh yeah, I could absolutely see something along those lines. But yeah, I don't think Stu is the same level of psycho. I really don't. I think he was just easily manipulated into this. Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he winds up. Then after that, you have Gail intervenes, enabling Sydney to escape and turn the tables on the killers, taunting them with a phone call and doing the Ghostface costume before knocking Billy out and killing Stu by dropping a television on his head.
Yeah, I love that kill. It's so
That kill
epic.
is so awesome.
And it's a big old, like, old school CRT TV. Just
One of those big TV sets that we had back in the 90s that you need at least 2 or 3 people to actually push. And now that's even when I've worked today because of flat screens, you couldn't get that same effect.
No.
As you could.
Not even a little bit.
But that scene is so awesome. And then Stu's like, the guy who plays Stu, he's like, I want to be in the next one. I was like, how is that going to happen? You have a TV dropped on your head.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
granted, they never technically tell us one way or the other if he's actually dead. They could have taken him to the hospital and just never referenced him again. But yeah, I don't think it would have worked. I think it would have been way too much of a stretch to try to convince the audience that he somehow survived and nobody talked about it and we never heard about him after that. So
true.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be doubted they actually say, you know what, we're going to make him his twin brother. His twin brother comes back for revenge.
I mean, yeah, that could have been interesting. Yeah.
Who's not to say that this wouldn't happen with this next movie, for example, that we're going to be getting?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, his family has twins that run in it because the twins, the guy and the girl who are twins, in the new ones are his like niece and nephew.
Right. So it makes more sense.
Yeah. So I guess technically it does. It's in the family, so it could happen.
After that winds up happening, this is enraged. Billy awakens and attacks Sydney, but Gail shoots him. And then this is my favorite part when Randy winds up saying, "This is the part where the killer comes back to life one more time."
Mm-hmm.
And then they both look at him and like, what the fuck? So, and then Billy comes up.
Yeah, he just pops right up.
And then that's, of course, when Sydney winds up shooting him in the head. Yeah. And then after that winds up happening, as Billy arises, Sydney shoots him, Billy in the head, finally killing him. As police arrive, Dewey, badly injured, is taken away from ambulance as Gail makes an important news report about the night's events. All bruised up, banged up. Because that's how much she cares about the news. Her cameraman may be dead, but damn it, she's going to get this report done.
Yeah. I would not want to be her cameraman. Nope. No, thank you.
Well, even the second one, the guy goes, I read about what happened to your cameraman.
Yeah. I'm out of here, man. Oh, man.
Yeah. But let me see here. There's actually something I wanted to do too. I've been adding a little bit of Rotten Tomatoes scores, what the critics had to say about Scream. So I thought that would actually be kind of interesting to say.
Yeah.
It actually has an 80% on the tomato meter.
Nice.
And it actually has a 79% on the audience score.
Okay.
So that's actually pretty interesting.
Let me see. My personal score would be much higher.
Mine too, much higher. And the review says, no one will ever consider Wes Craven's Scream Oscar fodder by this funny and scary little experiment in terror from the man who invented Nightmare on Elm Street, put some fun back into a very tired genre. And then this Desmond Ryan, by the time Scream arrives at its final twist, Craven has done too many contradictions of his own to give the finale much shock value. I disagree with that.
Yeah, I totally disagree. Yeah.
No matter how many times
I think the shock value of it, like I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was blown away by how the twists and turns. Like he tells you, like you've said a couple of times, he spells out who the killers are, right from the get-go. But because of the way he just twists and turns this story, you're not sure at all of who it actually is, and that's what I think makes it brilliant.
Definitely, because here's the thing. Like I said in the theaters, I'm guessing at who the killer is because I'm sucked into it. Because I'm thinking in my head, there's no way that it could be these teenagers that are doing it. It has to be a grown-ass adult that's actually killing these teenagers off for some reason.
Yeah.
Or another. So in the back of my mind, I'm going for someone that's older and not younger. So that's why when we see that whole entire scene in the schoolyard where basically they're sitting in front of the water fountain and they're talking about how to gut somebody, the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, well, they're just being stupid teenagers talking about. So that's what I was going with at the first, and then once you wind up,
it's like how all the kids run off to the like you said, they run off to the football field to go see a dead body because they're all morbid and that kind of shit just really interests them.
Just like I grew up in a small town, and we don't. It's not. We don't have shit else to do.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyways, man, that's going to be it as far as our Scream review goes. But we will be back to do Scream 2 soon, and we'll give you the details whenever that happens. But we are doing all the Scream movies all the way up until the new Scream movie comes out, and then once that comes out, we're going to do a review on that, and that will be the end of our Scream rewatch series.
Sounds good. I am excited to talk about all these movies, man.
I am too. I'm excited to have you back on here to be able to do these reviews with you. I miss doing these with you, so it's always a privilege to be able to have you on doing them. It's just finding the time, the balance to do it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I get it, man. You do so much. It's crazy.
It's hard for me to keep up on what I do, to be honest.
Yeah, I see you're doing something all the time. I'm like, man, he's got it. I give him credit.
Thank you, man. I do appreciate that.
Of course.
But my question is this: do you have anything going on as far as Merc with the blog goes, or anything like that?
Well, right now I'm doing my How I Met Your Mother podcast. It's called Last Call at McLaren's. I post it on the Merc with the Movie Blog YouTube channel. Every Monday we put out a new episode, and right now we're also doing How I Met Your Father. So Mondays and Fridays we put out episodes there. I started getting back into doing some stuff. I did a couple trailer reactions, and this year I want to get back into doing more movie stuff. So it's nice. This is nice to be able to do right here. It's kind of getting that itch going again. So
good. I'm glad that I could actually give you that groove back again. So
yeah, so I'm really excited to get back into doing all that stuff. Other than that, I've just been doing a lot of like editing stuff, book editing and things like that in my spare time. So hopefully we'll get some more videos going.
Okay. Well, guys, another thing before I actually close out, we're actually doing our Last of Us reviews on Wednesday nights on 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. I know that the Last of Us dropped a new episode Friday night, but I figured that the best way to go about it is keep it to a Wednesday night thing because everybody's been enjoying it on a Wednesday night. It also gives you guys a chance to actually catch up and watch the show. I actually have somebody else from another podcast called the Sleevy Jade Show. I believe that's actually how he has it. And he's going to be on with us. I have Anthony from ACS Universe coming on. Of course, he's going to be back again. I have my co-host Rossie. I have a bunch of other people that are going to be on my show. So go in and check us out Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And always until next time, guys. Bye-bye.